Welcome back. Akasha here, Nan Akasha, and thank you for coming back to the return of the priestess. So it's really fun to explore this topic, being that we're talking about a wisdom within us. We're not talking about achieving something. We're not talking about going back into 25 past lives. We're not talking about going to new schools unless any of that calls to you. But this is the recognition that the wisdom keeper inside of us is like the priestess, which was the mouth, the words, the tongue, the words, the hands, the body of the goddess, of the divine on earth, and still is. And that's who we are. And we came here with a really incredible purpose. So all of us have a unique blueprint, a unique makeup. Maybe that's in astrology. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you come and check out my show. We do, well, 2, 3 shows a week. And today we have an expert astrologer in so many areas, an incredible friend, Donna Stellhorn. And what's fun about this is to think about all the things that a wisdom keeper does. So it might be an astrologer, it might be an architect, it might be a healer, it might be a seer or an oracle, it might be an herbalist, it might be a midwife. There's all different aspects, and we're talking about embodying the sacred feminine, whether you're masculine or feminine. And your uniqueness definitely comes through when we talk about astrology. And when we get into the energies of the cosmos and who you came here to be, that goes even deeper into what is your way of accessing wisdom, accessing power, remembering how to use the energies of what's happening right now. You have experiences, and your unique astrological makeup is going to give you that uniqueness. Now, another part of that is the fun part about Feng Shui. So, all the different energy practices, all the understanding that everything is a unique, conscious, living being, whether it's a stone, a rock, a crystal, a symbol, a flower, my lizard friend, my frog who lives here in my house with me. So all of that comes together, and then the energetics of your house. It's just like all your thoughts, feelings that you carry most of the time come together to create one kind of frequency from who you are. Are you somebody who comes in the room and lifts people up? Are you somebody who always expects the worst? Are you somebody who talks nonstop about negative things and then says, why don't I have a happy life? But you have to look at that. Where is the percentage of what you're doing? Where's the energy? So we have all these tools. And when we remember the wisdom keeper, when we remember that we have these divine tools, maybe we remember them, and maybe we go to someone like Donna and she helps us remember them. So, what this gathering is about is really calling you back to reclaim your intuitive gifts, to trust yourself, to trust your telepathic pathways, to every form of communication that may be coming to you, whether animals speak to you. That's a very common thing for my students, is like, I saw this animal today and this animal is doing that today. And the moon and all of these things is coming back. And what I love about the idea of the return of the priestess is it means that we honor the life that we came here for. We honor that we chose to be here. We respect this path that we're on. We respect that we were supported to get here, that we have a fully funded mission. That means whatever we need, if we follow that path, if we discover who we are, if we use the tools that we have or someone else has to help us heal a trauma, create more flow, free ourselves from negativity, unhook from grief, all the levels of human experience, there's nothing wrong with them. The mastery is remembering that you can walk at a level of consciousness and you can use the tools around you, crystals, incense, symbols, right? And your own unique powers. So if you are, a Leo or Ish in the mind calendar, these things all are telling you what are the powers you hold and what are the things that will help you nourish that power and access that power. So we're going to go in with Donna today, and I'm going to share this one for you. So she has 20 books. She's got a fabulous new book on Chinese astrology. She's got a really great course on finding the hidden money in your chart. She does all kinds of other wonderful things, a free wishes call every month. And she has a fantastic YouTube channel. I think you should get on her email list at donnastellhorn.com, and you should get on her YouTube channel and subscribe, because between those two things, you send out a lot of really, really helpful information, and it's not overwhelming with too much tech talk. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us.
No, I am so excited to be here and to talk about this particular subject where they, to reawaken that wisdom inside of us. And I think that that starts at home because that's where we are most of the time. And if we can make that not just the sanctuary that it needs to be, but as well a magnet for the abundance to come in, I think that can be, you know, it it can make it feel like it's this palace, even if, you know, this is where you're heading towards and you're not quite there yet.
I love
Oh,
it.
yes. So and I think that the feminine side of us does gravitate towards home and creating that space, but we are very affected by our environment. What is in our space, it talks to us. And sometimes we can not be so conscious of it because we're in it every day. And so as we talk about this, I think it's really good to kind of look at your space with new eyes, as though you were a visitor, and say, why do I have this here? And what is this telling me? You know, uh, Things like clutter can tell us that inside we're having trouble making decisions or letting go or getting something started. And then we can say, oh, now I've identified that. And when we do, then the clutter just disappears. It's really remarkable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and I love the idea of the home, because to me, you said something that was very resonant, which is everything in your environment affects you. You know, everything has a frequency, everything has its own flavor or personality. And I'm extremely sensitive to whether it's a color, a smell, woo, um, anything, whether there's no windows, whether, there's plants, or, just everything. And it's so powerful that I choose really a lot of things that I do. It comes first, whether that energy in that place is going to be supporting me. I'm not really willing to tolerate being in a place that's hard on me
mm,
energetically.
yeah, 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 that makes sense. And we can also find that if we have difficult experiences outside in the world, we come home and we release. But if we don't clear the energy of the home, then that builds up. And that also can cause clutter or breakage or even arguments and things like that. And it's not because of disharmony, it's because this energy that you've been releasing has now collected and it's starting to disrupt the chi of the house.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so talk about that. Actually, start a little bit, because maybe not everybody completely understands the basic explanation of what Feng Shui is.
Yeah, yeah, sure. It's something that I found very early because I had grown up in a disruptive household. And so I noticed that when I would take my walks, I would like to walk right at dusk because people haven't closed their window shades yet. And I would look into their houses and think, what kind of life do you have? Is it this happy life? Is it sad? Is it similar to what I'm experiencing? And so then when I found feng shui, I was like, oh my goodness, there is something here. And it was structured and real. And I was like, this wasn't something I was imagining. And and so what feng shui is basically is setting up your environment to support your goals. And we are surrounded by this because of course, the advertising industry and all the people who do marketing, utilize this all the time. We see it in grocery stores, etc. The stuff that I want that's the organic and natural, it's on the highest shelf. So, or all of the things by the register for that last minute grab. That's feng shui too, not utilized necessarily in the best way. So, so when you set up your house with feng shui, it's not that you have this, you know, minimalist, clutter-free, perfect environment. Actually, feng shui works very well when we move things around. And you can see I'm hardly minimalist. So,
Yeah.
so the energy more is this in harmony with my goals?
Mhm.
And so, what I wanted to talk about today was that there's this five element system in in Chinese astrology, and we can determine your elements pretty easily, and then you can find whether you are already using the cures that bring abundance for that element. And if you're not, then you can bring them in.
So, you call it a cure.
So some call it a cure. I do often, or a remedy. I like to think of it as kind of like an acupuncturist needle. And so it's an object that goes in and then the energy collects around it.
Mm.
And so, but just like an acupuncturist needle, you don't leave it in forever. And so sometimes you'll have lots of feng shui cures and things like that that you have placed over the years, but they have lost their energy because they haven't been moved, they haven't been cared for, that sort of thing. So, and so when people click on the link for me, what they're going to get is a how I personally refresh my cures, my remedies.
Oh,
And so it's a little talk that I did. It's not very long, and but it'll give you the tools that you need to refresh the energy of what you've got. But let's talk about what should be in there or what could be in there to bring the abundance.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I like to start with the elements, and there are five elements in Chinese astrology. So there wood, which then creates fire, and then the fire burns, and what comes from the fire is ash, so that's earth. And then a earth, we dig into the earth and we find gold and silver and everything else. So earth creates metal. And then if we make something out of metal and, it gets hot or it gets cold, condensation forms on the metal, it pulls water out of the air. And so the fifth element is water. And then to complete the cycle, we pour water on the ground and then trees grow. So we have this cycle, and you actually have four elements in your chart because you have a four pillar chart. There's the year you were born, the month you were born, the day you were born, and the hour you were born. And you, for this purpose, you could use the day you were born, but we're going to use the year because, I don't have everybody's chart in front of me.
Mm.
And this will be just one of the four elements that is in your chart. Now, you may have multiples of the same element. You may have a lot of metal in your chart. And then you want to kind of double down on that. And so if anybody wants to know what they've got in the elements, they can send me an email and I'll send them a copy of their Chinese astrology chart.
Okay, great.
So so to determine your element, and I have to apologize because Chinese New Year falls on the new moon in Aquarius. It doesn't fall on January 1st. So if you're born in January or February, you do kind of have to check in to see which of the elements you are. But if you are born in a year ending in 4 or 5, and that is, say, like late February all the way to December, you are wood element. So 4 or 5 is wood. If you are born in a year that ends in 6 or 7, you're fire. If you're born in a year that is 8 or 9, you're earth. If you're born in a year that ends in 0 or 1, you're metal. And then 2 or 3 would be water.
Mm, okay.
Okay. So you've got one in your head already,
I'm
right?
metal.
You're
I
metal, just
think
like
you're
me.
metal too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm a metal rat.
Yes. And so the elements are the building blocks of all things. And this is true in Western astrology as well as Chinese astrology. It's just the element systems are a little bit different. So for people who are the wood element, there's such an intense desire to grow and learn. And so I say, if you're wood element, you know you are because you think all problems in the world would be solved if people would just think and learn. So, and then the fire people, this is about energy and action. And people who are born in the year that's fire believe all problems in the world would be solved if people would just do something. So, if for the earth energy, which is about, taking things to a place of making sure that they're right and perfect and, not moving so quickly to rush into things, then the the people who are earth would think all problems in the world would be solved if people would just pause for a moment. So then metal is about the resources that are available and about organizing things and, collecting the money and distributing money. And so people who are metal, like you and I, believe all problems in the world would be solved if we just distributed resources better.
Ah.
Yes, it resonates, huh?
Uh-huh.
And then there's water, and water is about connection. The waterways and all of that are what connected the villages together. And so people who are water believe all problems in the world would be solved if people would just talk to one another.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So then when it comes to our homes, there's only one room in the house that actually naturally has all 5 elements, and that's the kitchen. And so that's where you actually get the most energy. So generally, all kitchens have wood cabinets, right? And we'll have some, like a stove that, even if it's electric, can make something burst into flames at some point. Then there is some sort of earth elements, oftentimes the floor or the countertops, or even if there's just ceramic dishes. But you have the earth element, and then the metal, of course, for the appliances, and the water in coming out of the faucet. And this is why everyone gravitates to the kitchen.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because that's where everyone feels comfortable. That's where the power is.
Mm.
So, but you can take your element and add that element into other rooms to attract the abundance. So, and there's more things than we're going to talk about today, but I want to give a few for each of the elements that you may have in your place already. And then you want to dust it off and put it in a place that is of honor. You want to focus on moving things around to, like, the acupuncturist needle, so that it will then suddenly get the chi energy.
Mm. Mm.
So far, so good.
Yeah, no, I love it. I remember finding out I was metal and just being confused, thinking, but I'm fire. Wow.
Right.
But then, and then you said, well, it was about resources. And I kind of thought, okay. And then you said, you're very resourceful. You said you think of all kinds of ideas to do things. And then all of a sudden it just opened up. I started to get, kind of get the element in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So I love that, looking at it from the perspective of like, well, if we'd all just do this one thing. And we
Yeah,
did all of them, then we would get along really
it
good.
does confuse people that there's a five-element system in Chinese astrology and a four-element system in the West. And it's because these systems did emerge independently. But it's also that in the West, we look at the planetary cycles, and but the planets were prominent in the East as well. And so these elements are actually the planets themselves. And so
Um,
metal is Venus.
mm, mm,
And so you're doing the Venus energy when you're doing that metal part. And then Mercury, of course, is water. That's the communication. So the one that wants to learn everything and go on adventures wood is Jupiter. Grow,
ah,
grow, grow. So Mars is fire, of course, has
mm,
to take action. And then Saturn, which is about, all right, let's we'll slowly build this thing. Let's make the
ah,
mountain. That's Earth. And and so when I found out that that's why there are five elements, it just made perfect sense. And then that they interact with each other.
yeah,
In the West, we don't really see that interaction with the elements. We still use them as building blocks, but not in this really dynamic cycle.
yeah. I love
So
it. All the different energies that are here to guide us, to show us things, to give us clues. It's fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it is. And we need to gravitate toward what works for us. And the reason there's so many systems is because we're all different. And some systems we go, oh yeah, that clicks. And some we go, you know. So, and sometimes when there are people who are not so in touch with home or family or even the feminine, they'll say, my environment doesn't affect me. But then they go to the restaurant and they won't sit with their back to the door, and they do buy all of the candy at the check stand. Like, of course you're affected by your environment. So now let's do it intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if a person's wood, then you have extra sensitivity when it comes to plants and herbs. And so these are two things that you can use to start to bring in the abundance. And so with plants, it is that if you want actual money from the abundance, you would choose plants that have a roundish leaf, like a coin. So versus one that's sharp and pointed like a sword. And so this plant behind me, which I think is just a philodendron.
Yeah.
I I've had this one particular plant for, I'm gonna say, more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
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 And the little cuttings are everywhere
Yeah.
and fill up the little tiny yard I have because I
Exactly.
take them outside too. And it's just so this, like one little grocery store plant has done all of this. And so, even if you don't have a green thumb, this type of plant has that more roundish leaf. So it's kind of a heart-shaped leaf.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you can also use herbs. And so, like a sprinkle of cinnamon under your welcome mat to bring in prosperity.
Mm,
Adding a little bit of lavender scent to clear the area, to clear the energy so that you can work, so that you can, have a clear thoughts of what you want to do next.
mm,
So you have a gift when you're wood to utilize these things to help you bring in the abundance.
mm. Is it specific then, like if you are wood and you work with those things, anybody could, I burn all kinds
Correct.
of scents and woods and trees and whatever.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
is it then, but then with that particular element, you have an amplified
Yeah.
tool
Yeah.
to help.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, where you get to go downhill a little bit. Like,
Ah,
woo, it's easy. Like gravity takes you. There's a little bit of a flow, and you go, okay, this is about tapping into that.
Oh,
So, yeah, I do believe that we should explore all the elements and try to create the balance.
mm.
But it's also fun to go "Ee," and have a little bit of flow.
It's fun to go wee. Okay.
So, so with the fire element, of course, the color red is helpful. And there's a ton of studies that were done in like the 70s and 80s about the power of color. And one of them was that if there was the color red in your lower field of vision, that is, from eye level and downwards, so on the top of your desk or your shoes, your rug, if that was red, you were going to be more decisive. You're going to make quicker decisions.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that can be something where, just some throw pillows, a red rug, some red on your desk, just to help you say, okay, I know what to do and I'm taking the action now.
Have any red?
I know. That's very interesting. So, but you do have candles, and that's the other
A
thing for
lot of fire,
fire.
yeah.
Yes. And, sometimes people don't want to deal with actual candles, and that's fine. That's why there's other cures that you can use. But if you do burn candles, you know, candles are, they're amazing for not just getting our attention, but getting the whole universe's attention.
Yeah.
So, because when anybody walks in a room, the first thing we notice is something on fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So, but
think
it
that's
also,
a good thing, yeah.
I mean, people need to remember that incandescent lights, oh yeah, I see your candle. So the incandescent lights, the fluorescent lights, all of these things that we use are really relatively recent. And our souls really understand the candles, the oil lamps, the fires. Those are what brought us together. Those are what gave us the sense of safety and connection. And so, with,
Where
if
incense, if you burn incense, is that earth or fire or both, or how does that
I count it as air, actually, which is
there?
not one of
Oh
the
my
five
God.
Chinese uh, elements, and that and diffusing scent in the air.
Oh, I see.
So I see as air elements, but again, not one of the five.
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, so and then for Earth, it's quite important to have a little space where you can sit and feel comfortable and meditate or think, or so you need a comfy chair. So you need a place, and maybe it has a nice view, or maybe it's away from everyone else, or maybe it's right in the heart of things, but it gives you a vantage point where you don't have to move and you can just survey. And that's something that when you have identified that space for you, this is my place, then that solidness then allows you to attract what it is that you need. And that could be ideas or connections or resources.
Mm,
And
I
then
like that. Yeah.
in addition, Earth does well with opaque stones.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so that can be anything from the granite or marble to the more gemstone type, which would be things like turquoise, so
Yeah.
carnelian, jasper.
So then if you feel like you need more earth element in a particular area, then that's what you could do. Like I could
Correct.
like this turquoise and put it there,
Mhm.
and that would
Yes.
start to attract more earth element. Okay, got it.
Yes. And that's going to be, the stable job opportunities, the s- the things you can count on, the friends that really they show up and take you to the airport at 5 a.m. Like that is the earth energy. And if you are earth, you want to make sure that that's in place first before you start venturing out into the other elements.
Mm,
Is
mm.
do you have those in place? And we find, of course, when you're earth element that you probably have a lot of rocks anyway. You've got them there.
I have a lot of rocks. Earth, but I'm trying to think of what metal I have. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, so jade would also be, of course, an excellent stone to use. And then, bloodstone, which is so good for health. Anything that you can't see through is very earth. So, yeah.
So that would be obsidian too.
Obsidian, yes, which is almost a glass, so you want one that's solid enough that you can't see through it. If it's
Okay.
very thin, you can. And so then it's crossing over into the water element.
We got malachite, obsidian.
I think you have a howlite there, perhaps that white one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one is another opaque stone. So there's so many. And of course, they all have different meanings, and it's very easy these days to find those meanings. So, so then comes to metal, right? And of course, yes, that would be things made of metal.
Yeah.
And that includes your pots and pans,
Oh, wow.
right?
A lot of those.
Yeah,
I
you don't have you do have
know.
those. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but also, sometimes we can find them in the form of vases or bowls. It's about collecting together resources. So we need a way to catch the resources. So a brass bowl makes
Mm.
sense. Coins themselves, though, are also metal
Yeah.
and perfect in that, they can be hopefully spent at some point, right? So placing stacks of coins on your windowsill to show that the house is welcoming money and that money can flow in.
Oh, wow.
So, or using the Chinese coin strings, the
Mm.
Chinese coins with the square hole.
Yeah.
It's so it's a round coin with a square hole. And so the round part is heaven. That's the ideal. And the square is earth. And so we're combining heaven and earth in this one coin. That's
Yeah.
the meaning of it. But it also makes it really easy to hang on things.
Well, I do, yeah. I like those too, though. But I just remembered I always have a little prosperity frog with a coin in his.
There he is with yeah, with his coin in his mouth. And so this was a very magical frog. So the story was that a nobleman had this frog, and he was so magical, the nobleman could climb onto the back of this frog, so he was pretty large, and be
Yeah.
anywhere in China that he wanted to instantaneously.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he became very powerful. And so the frog opened up new avenues for this nobleman. Now, there's another story that this frog actually lives on the moon and he guards the tree of eternal life. And so there's the elixir of eternal life there. So, yeah, but yes, the most lucky monkey frogs, you can find them made either out of brass, which would be good for metal, or you can find them out of jade or some jadeite. That's very good for earth. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then I've heard different stories about them, like they're supposed to face the door or
Yes, they're the doorman.
okay.
So if they're inside, they face the door, and if they're outside, their back is to the door, just like a doorman.
Ah, okay, got
Yeah. So, and he's just there to welcome the money.
ah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a real living frog living in my house, and it can work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He will help. So I think it's so interesting because the stories are different for different cultures. And so in the West, we're familiar with the kiss a frog and he turns into a prince,
Oh, yeah.
right? But in the original story from Europe, she didn't kiss him. She threw him up against a wall and then he turned into a prince. So,
I
yeah,
did not know that one.
Disney softened that one.
Yeah.
So, and then the fifth element here is water. And so with water, of course, we can use all the things that have water in them. And that would be, if you have a fish tank, that can help bring abundance. If you have a fountain, that can bring abundance because it's that sense of moving water. And, there's so much that we associate water with wealth anyway, we want good cash flow. We don't want our assets frozen. We put our money in a bank, which is the side of a river, right? So all of these things we think about with water and abundance.
Mm.
But if you're not up for keeping fish or a fountain, because there is some maintenance for that, you can use the translucent crystals. And so that would be your clear quartz, your citrine, um, all of the different crystals, especially things that have yeah, that's beautiful. So that one has a lot of doorways in it.
Lots of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So rutilated quartz is very nice.
Mm.
So, and so utilizing the crystals by, when you're working on something, you can have the crystal on your desk. Place it on your windowsill so it can catch the moonlight at night, and then it's all energized and ready to go for you during the day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and so that's the five. And like you said before, of course, we want to have all of these things in our place, but to start, like to have that flow, to first say, okay, Nan, where's your medal? You know?
I
And
gotta think more about that.
yeah, yeah. And so the energy, and as I said, there are more cures you can do for each element, and you could have up to four elements in your four pillar chart. And so, there's quite a bit more you can do with this, but this is the start of it.
So if you want to figure out each of them,
Mhm.
it's all based on the number. I mean, yeah, the number, the last.
So no, just the year is based on that because the we find out what animal and element you are for what month you were born, and then what day you were born, and then the hour you were born. And so in Chinese astrology, there's a big book that tells us. So this is the 10,000 year calendar. And this would tell us it doesn't have all 10,000 years. They gypped me. It's only about 200 years. But these days you can go online and you can find out your Chinese astrology chart. Or as I said, if you email me, I'll send you a copy of your Chinese astrology chart.
Hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that would be fun. So then if you have three or four different ones, you start with your year one and then you
Correct. Yes. But your day pillar, the day you were born, is super important in Chinese astrology because that's how we connect to somebody else. And a lot of abundance and all of that is about us connecting with others. Despite what some of the tech bros say that we as one person can have $1 billion business, that's possible, but I'm sure they're going to talk to somebody.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, oh, cool. I love this. I remember when all of this was new and there wasn't an internet.
Yeah.
And you had a bookstore, right? You had a crystal store
Yeah.
and just having access to start to understand there were all these different ways to relate, to understand something, to things had a deeper meaning than just, oh, it's a pretty color, like
Mhm.
or I like a floral pattern, like I love that to me because then it keeps layering on top of other things. So I'm excited. I want my chart.
Okay, that sounds good. Yes, and one of the reasons why these things work is because for thousands of years, people have utilized these. They've done the rituals with them. They have put the energy into these symbols.
Mm.
And So, and that's why they have then that collective consciousness meaning. So, just like, yes, starting something on the solstice, so important. That's great. But January 1st has power too now because millions of people celebrate January 1st.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it's the same with that lucky money frog. That frog has thousands of years of history of one generation after another retelling that story. And that gives it that energy. But you yourself, you might resonate so strongly with something else. I have found people who are, devout Catholics who worked so well with Ganesh.
Oh,
Amazing.
yeah.
So, or people who are, normally would do a lucky money frog, bury St. Joseph to sell their house, and it works great. Because so sometimes crossing into another culture and utilizing those symbols can have amazing results.
Yeah, that's a really important just to think about across the board, I mean, one of the things I do is go to sacred sites all the time. And the more you realize all these concepts, all time exists at the same moment. That means
Mhm.
everybody doing ceremony there ever is still there doing it right now when I'm there,
Yes.
like if I wanted to tune into that. And
Yes.
and the same thing, like how many
Mhm.
times was there a ceremony done here to awaken your third eye or to, bless the babies or whatever it is. And that energy being so powerful because of so many people holding that intention.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
I noticed that for the violet flame. There's so many cultures that have worked with the violet flame on the earth now. It's like such a tangible kind of array versus a lot of other ones people don't really think about. So yeah.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, goody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else we should do to play with our new magic, with our new previous powers?
Yes, to go around that house with those new eyes and pick up each of your objects, all of your sacred objects, and say, this is my intention for you. And even if you're putting it back down in the same place, now it has some new energy to it.
Yeah.
So reintroduce yourself to your house,
Mhm.
and then you start to co-create with the house itself.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Very nice. It's interesting when you said that if you've set things up, feng shui things, and they haven't been moved or, they've become sort of like you're used to them, so you don't notice them, right? First put up a painting, you're like, ah, and then you
Yeah.
don't notice it after a while. Um, but I was thinking about this Mayan priest that I work with, and he says your sacred items, right?
Mhm.
Your crystals, your drums, your rattles, your whatever, your tools. He said, you don't really need to keep buying more. You need to go take the ones you have off the shelf. They want to go outside and do something.
It's so true.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's so
Yeah. Yeah. Put your wishes under your lucky frog or your lucky money cat. So, take the coins that you have on the windowsill and polish those and put them back. Use the crystals that you have. Light the candles. I have so many people I've seen where they have this candle and they had it so long and they never lit it.
Oh my gosh, yes. That was me. I used to collect candles when I was in junior high.
Mm,
It was the 60s and early 70s. And I had mushroom shaped candles and I don't know, like every kind of weird shape. And I never burned them, those, of course, not. But if somebody gave me a nice smelling candle, I never used to burn it. I'd be like, oh, I have to keep it. It's
right.
not good enough. But now I burn everything.
Yes. Yes, that's fantastic.
Right.
So,
So, okay, so donnastellhorn.com.
yes.
Yes, okay. And then and your YouTube, and tell us what else their goodies they're gonna get when they get on your list.
So, yes, there is this recording of me talking about how to re-energize the cures, doing, the method that I use, what I do every month to go through and make sure everything is energized. And then this particular thing that I have started talking about is a whole video course, and this is coming up live, I think, around the time that this recording is heard by people. And so if they want to know the other things that they can do, or they want to incorporate the other elements, that's going to be there. And then finally, I have an illustrated newsletter that I send out every week. That's free. And so if you like astrology and you love black cats, you're really going to love this newsletter. So consider checking it out. And that's it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I always love everything you share, and this was really delightful. It was a really like a joyful experience, exploring a different way of connecting to all the elements and everything that I love to do, and giving me new ways of looking at things. So I like that. I think that's part of it, is waking up to new ways of seeing things, and refreshing your life, refreshing your mind, right? Refreshing
Yeah.
relationship. I like that too, about going around. I like to move stuff, especially altars, which are everywhere.
Yeah.
But I do think that that is a problem with most lives, is like that stagnant energy. So, well, good. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. I will see you on the next one. And what we're going to do is keep diving deeper into ways that you can access your wisdom. And
Mhm.
I wish you all the beautiful blessings of this time. And between the eclipses, as we are in the moment, be sure that you watch where you're going and what you're feeling. So, great time to do a little feng shui. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you, Nan.